All righty. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the 2023 Candidate Forum for TGK City Council at-large seats. I'm Dean Fell, President and CEO of the York County Regional Chamber of Commerce, and I'll be your moderator this evening. The Chamber is delighted to be serving the city of TGK and as convener of tonight's forum. We will hear from 5 candidates aiming to fill the 2 at-large seats, and both seats will be determined on Election Day, November 7th. My job tonight is to ask questions, keep up with the rotation, and if needed, just kind of keep things in general order. Just for our audience to make sure if you've not been in this room, just please take a moment, look around, note your exits in case we do need to exit the building for any reason. Just want to make sure that we're aware of that. Chamber staff compiled the questions that were provided by chamber members and citizens of TGK, and we'll be asking those tonight. I will commend and thank the 5 of you for being willing to run and put yourself out there for this purpose. And I would ask all of our audience to let's hold our applause during their answers and give them the time because we'll be moving through pretty quickly. And at the end of the evening, we'll give a big round of applause to everyone and thank them for their willingness to put themselves out there. So our rules for tonight, I know our candidates know it, but I'll go ahead and share those with the audience so everyone's aware of the format we have tonight. There will be a 60-second opening statement, and they'll be followed by 6 questions that each candidate will be allowed to answer in a 60-second time period. The same questions will be directed to all candidates, and each candidate will have the opportunity to answer first. The order determination will be by alphabetical, by last name, with the order rotating throughout. Candidates will be notified by the timer right here to your right, and that timer will count down for you and make a rather obscene, obnoxious sound to make sure you wrap up your thoughts. As I mentioned earlier to you, I will allow you to wrap up your thought. I just ask you don't move on to the next thought or I'll call time on you and move to the next candidate. In delivering opening statements and answering questions, as I mentioned to all of you earlier, focus on the issues. If you do happen to choose to call out another candidate for some reason, I will give that candidate an opportunity to rebut your statement. Candidates will not be allowed to use electronic devices tonight. You do have notepads. I noticed that they're very large. Carmen, you'll hold one of those up. We'll give you a chance to write a lot of notes. So you can trust that we will be hearing what's in their mind and not on their paper. Candidates will not, as I said, not be allowed to do that. And that's all I've got. Candidates, do you have any questions for me before we get started? And everybody has water and good to go. If you need anything else, just kind of raise your hand. Mr. Pursley, who is our stage manager tonight, will help us out. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Our first opening statement goes to Mr. Brian Carter. Mr. Carter, you have 1 minute.
Well, thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you all for coming out this evening. Thank you, Dean and the Chamber, for hosting this event again. My name is Brian David Carter. My beautiful wife, Laura, and I moved into TGK over 17 years ago with our 2 very young children at the time. They're now young adults, and we've been very fortunate and blessed to be able to call TGK home for over 2 decades, almost 2 decades. Our kids benefited from the school system here, all the recreational activities, and we've all benefited from living in a safe community. Over the years, I've given back and I volunteered at multiple organizations and even the TGK Volunteer Fire Department when I first moved here. I'm running for TGK City Council because recently my wife and I have become empty nesters, and this has allowed me the time and the opportunity to focus on our community. I'm able to devote my energy to listening and understanding the community's concerns, and I look forward to representing all the residents of TGK.
Thank you. Mr. Adam Grayback is our next candidate. Mr. Grayback.
Well done on the last name. First of all, thanks to the city for the venue. Thanks to the chamber for hosting. My name is Adam Grayback, and I've been married to my beautiful wife, who's in the audience tonight, for 18 years, and we have 2 great kids who both attend Fort Mill High School. They're both in Fort Mill Marching Band, so they get to win a lot, which I also enjoy. I'm an architect of 20 years. I'm on the Planning Commission and served on my HOA in Cameron Creek. I also spent some time as a teacher. We love TGK and have grown to love it even more during this campaign. I mean, there's so many supportive people, some of you in the audience tonight, just as passionate as I am. You appreciate my straight talk. You also appreciate my willingness to listen and learn. Many of you know I've been very vocal about protecting what we have here in TGK, and I will put my words into action if I'm fortunate enough to be elected on November 7th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ronald Kirby is our next candidate. Mr. Kirby.
Good evening. I'm Ron Kirby. I've had the privilege of calling TK home for over 30 years. I relocated here to join my family's business, and just so fortunate it was close enough that we knew where we wanted to live. The 45-minute drive, it was worth it every day. We raised 2 daughters here in TK, one Lauren that's in the audience tonight, and Jacqueline, who's in New York, where I just flew back from this afternoon. We loved coming here because of the recreation we saw during the years we visited in the 70s and 80s, and the people and everything about it on the Lakeside Resort. I served as a volunteer for roughly 10 years to the city for a community relations committee, eventually being chairperson, overseeing the 4th of July and the what was then called the block party. Now the Fall Festival has grown a little bit. Also, I served on the Public Safety Commission.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Ms. Carmen Miller. Ms. Miller.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight, and thank you, Chamber, for holding this event. My name is Carmen Miller, and I'm here as a candidate for TKK. Sorry, I missed the instruction about turning that on.
I forgot to turn mine off.
I'm Carmen Miller, and I'm here as a candidate for TKK City Council. My family moved to TKK over 18 years ago from Texas, and we've raised our children here. They've gone to school here. I've been blessed enough to be able to build a business here in TKK that I have built around community, and I've built around my neighbors. I feel that I'm qualified and are focused on getting things done. That is how I built my business. That is what I see for TKK. I'm passionate about where I live. I'm passionate about our future. I'm passionate about bringing that quality of life that we all really felt when we moved here. And I want to make that a focus for us moving forward. I make decisions. I make focused decisions, and I want to do that for us here in TKK.
Thank you. And Mr. Daniel Robert.
Thank you for not adding the S, Dean. Thank you to the York County Regional Chamber. Thank you to all of you. And thank you to those of you watching at home. I'm Daniel Robert. I realize a lot of you don't know me because my family and I have only lived here for the last 2.5 years almost. We moved here in the summer of 2021. I retired from the Army 4 years ago in 2019. After an almost 16-year career in Army Special Operations. I've been a public servant almost my entire adult life, and part of leaving service and coming here and starting my next career left a void of service. And so I want to serve the community where I call home. We've loved every minute of being here. We have a blended family, and TKK is unique, and we want to keep it that way. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that was the easy part, candidates. Now we're going to get into some questions and see if we can challenge you a bit. So we're going to start with the most pressing matter on everyone's mind, deer. Now, I'm not going to give you 60 seconds on this one. We're just a little bit of a warm-up question. We're going to start with Mr. Grayback. Yes or no? Is there a problem with deer, and does something need to be done?
Yes and yes.
Mr. Kirby?
Yes and yes. Yes and yes.
Thank you. Ms. Miller?
Yes and yes.
And Mr. Robert?
Absolutely yes, and yes.
And Mr. Carter?
Absolutely and definitely in the original part of TKK.
Okay. Very good. Well done, candidates. All right. Jumping in. Mr. Grayback, I'm going to start this next question with you also. If elected to council, what would you want to see council do differently than they are currently doing?
Thanks for the question. So I think we have a potential issue with our spending at this point in time. Recently, we've seen in this last budget, we saw a 20% increase year over year, and with this looming recession, I'm not sure the impact fees are going to be there to do what we need to do. The housing slowdown, and without commercial development, I'm not sure we're going to get the revenue that we need. So I think it's a very important issue to get our spending under control. Otherwise, we may be in a position to where, we have to, have apartments come in, which I'm a hard no on that, but that's not something that we want to have to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kirby, same question.
Okay. I think this council's got good focus with the things that they've come to, but I think they need to focus on some things missing, and that's the day-to-day things that we see, what we touch, see, and feel. And that would be streetscapes, facilities, other things that belong to the city. Also, I'd like to see them give a commitment to focusing on the additional recreational opportunities that are needed.
Thank you. And just as a reminder, I'll repeat the question. If elected to council, what would you want to see council do differently than they are currently doing? Ms. Miller.
I agree with the financial decisions and being mindful of how we're projecting for future expenses. I also believe that council could do a better job in communicating what their decisions are with the residents so that they can understand how they arrived to those decisions. They can understand the thought process. And once it's communicated, it may not be, it tends to bring people together a lot easier than it does otherwise. I do also think that we do have to focus on our current infrastructure, our existing parks, and really spend some time in knowing how to make those relevant.
Thank you. Mr. Roberts, same question.
So I think the current council has done a good job so far, and especially not taking on new debt for the city. The city's in a great financial position currently. However, I agree with Mr. Grabeck and Ms. Miller on the future financial position. We do need commercial development, and that's no fault of anybody in this room and no fault of anybody watching at home. It's just where we are now. I would also say that with the opening of Catawba Park, and it's been absolutely fantastic. Our oldest son just won a flag football championship there on Sunday. The existing parks, or the heritage parks, as I'll call them, need a better look. Now that we're still using them, but they're behind Catawba Park on a level of infrastructure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to wrap up this question, Mr. Brian Carter.
I think the council's doing a really good job right now. There are some opportunities. I do think that efficiency is one of the opportunities. Whenever a problem or a concern is presented to council, council sometimes acts quickly in order to satisfy that proverbial itch type thing, but sometimes it doesn't really make sense. The one example that I have is Windjammer Park. Windjammer Park, a lot of people have issues with people coming from outside the community to park at Windjammer Park, but we need permits, guest permits in order to park there. Well, if you show up on Saturday or Sunday to try and park there and try and get a guest permit, you have to get a guest permit over at City Hall. You can't get a guest permit at City Hall because it's closed, but they put up the signs in order for people to have a guest permit. The opportunity there is to go off and possibly put up like a parking like a box where you can actually pay there at the park, or you can have a QR code or a scanner that will take you to the website where you can actually pay. There's different efficiencies that we can go off and do and not necessarily knee-jerk reactions.
Thank you. So our next question will begin with Mr. Ron Kirby. And this question is, what do you think is the most pressing issue in TGK? And if elected, how do you propose that issue be addressed?
I think without a question, that's a deer. And I think the council has come up with a couple of ideas, and thanks to the Wildlife Committee, what they brought to the council's looking at one other opportunity. This is not a new thing in TGK. It's been going on for a long time. My heart's out to the existing council because I've served here and I've seen what would be allowed and not allowed by the South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. It's not to just say, we're going to do this. So definitely that's number one. Number two is I hope they're not going to build a hotel at the marina. I heard some scuttle about that. So
Thank you.
That's number two.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Miller, same question.
I think our most pressing concern, other than the deer, is our future sustainability. We are a city that is getting to a point where we're going to be looking at a fixed income. We've grown to our boundaries, and once that growth has finished, there is no more additional income or tax that is going to be that we can gain. So really making decisions today and what our budget looks like. Impact fees are going to be gone between 3 to 5 years. That's 7 to 10% of our budget. That 7 to 10% of our budget is something that we should be looking at taking care of now so that we're in front of that deficit when it comes in 3 to 5 years. All of our spending really needs to be watched so that when we do get to that place where we are no longer adding to our tax income, we're able to respond.
Thank you. Mr. Robert, same question.
So the city of TKK is a great place to live and raise a family. It is a relief in a sense that our most talked about problems are deer and parking at Windjammer Park. I don't say that to minimize those issues, but it does illustrate how fortunate we are to live in such a great place. So due to very limited land development opportunities, future growth will be limited residentially. So we need to grow commercially. And when we stop growing residentially, to Ms. Miller's point, we will lose the impact of impact fees. And so we need to explore other avenues of revenue generation like commercial retail, because to my knowledge, no sitting member of council wants to raise taxes, and I'm not for that right now as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carter.
So yes, deer, parking, the hotel at the marina, absolutely, completely against it. But one of the concerns that we have is growth and where we've actually grown to and how much land we've annexed and having everything developed right now. What I want to do is I want to focus on smart and controlled growth. The smart growth is to focus on our existing city limits and focus on our infrastructure inside those city limits in regards to streets, trails, sidewalks, looking at water, sewer, especially in the older sections of TKK, focusing on that. We want to focus on our police department, our fire department to maintain the community safety that we have. Another part of our controlled and smart growth, like what we're talking about, is commercial development is what we need to focus on. If we focus on commercial development, that's going to be the economic driver to go ahead and provide that tax, what are we talking about, the tax revenue that we need for the city to offset the lack of impact fees that we're going to be getting when we stop the residential community developments.
Thank you. And our last on this question is Mr. Grayback.
Thank you. So I think one of the things is the residential growth being extreme as it is a major problem, and I'm not in favor of any more of that. But beyond that, I think we need to create a more hospitable environment for these commercial entities to come in. Currently, the business license tax is too high. It's almost double what Fort Mill is, and in this current economic climate, I think it's really important to incentivize these businesses to come in here. Otherwise, we're going to have more empty commercial lots like we have over in Windhaven just sitting there empty. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Ms. Miller. Roads are important to everyone. What grade would you give to the countywide Pennies for Progress program? And what road or roads would you like to see included in the next iteration of Pennies to support TKK citizens?
I know that Pennies for Progress has been a great resource for TKK, and they have contributed to a lot of our newer roads or to the repaving of our existing roads. I think that our focus needs to be in the Dam Road area, Stonecrest area. That's where Main Street is coming in, and that's where widening that would make the most effective contribution to our city. I believe that Pennies for Progress may have also been involved in the repaving of TKK Drive, which was about 10 years ago. That is something that will have to get looked at again soon, but most of the focus needs to be in where all the new construction is coming, which is off of Dam Road.
Thank you. Mr. Robert, same question.
Like Ms. Miller, I agree. Where I agree with Dam Road. Personally, I would wait until after construction is finished. We need a traffic study, and let's wait until all of the heavy equipment is gone before we look to improve a road there. I'd also look at New Gray Rock Road. That's where Catawba Park is. It's a main thoroughfare to TKK as well as Fort Mill proper. And those are the two roads where I'd focus. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carter, same question.
So Pennies for Progress has been a wonderful thing for our community. It widened 160 all the way up to the North Carolina state line. Here locally in our community, it was the economic driver for the Hubert Graham Parkway, and then most recently for the Hubert Graham Parkway extension that was just recently completed. Excuse me. The three roads that I think that we really need to focus on are Dam Road, which are not a part of their plans, New Gray Rock Road, which is not part of their plans, and then Gardendale, widening all those roads. If you think about Dam Road is really bumpy and it is really windy and it's dangerous for the majority of people that actually live there. We have a lot of new communities that are there. There's a lot more traffic that's going up and down that road, along with a whole bunch of people that are hauling their boats to and from the lake and then coming back out after a full day of drinking. It's a dangerous road, and I really think that we need to widen that and straighten that road out. I know you guys think I'm serious, so yeah, it's something that needs to happen. So those are the roads that I really want to focus on.
Thank you. Mr. Grayback.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we've established everybody loves Pennies for Progress. Me too. You know, I agree. Dam Road is terrible. I mean, we've been talking about Dam Road since 2017, I think. We've been, quote unquote, waiting until all the construction is completed, and I just worry that if we wait, we could be waiting another 5-6 years. And me personally, I'm sick of losing feelings when I go and drive down that road. I think my teeth rattle loose every time. So that and Stonecrest, I think, would be a huge priority.
Thank you. And Mr. Kirby, to wrap up.
Pennies for Progress. Thanks to Carl Gullick for bringing that to the table some 20-something years ago, and the job that's been done. A lot of people don't realize Pennies for Progress is the reason we got 77 widened, and we have the surface there that's the splash-free, water spray-free asphalt. Pennies for Progress is the envy of every county in the state. We were the first. We've done a lot. It's been great. They've been a great asset to us. Hubert Graham Way, that was named in his honor because he's the one that pushed the boat from TK to push it over the line to get it done. So as far as repairs, obviously Dam Road, Gardendale, Gray Rock, but we got a lot that needs to be done in the original TK also. So I'd like to see some focus put on that. Pennies for Progress is great. They've got a lot of good support, done a lot of good things. But Hubert Graham Way was almost 11 years late and cost us almost 10 times what original was cost.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby. I will note to the audience that these are true politicians. No one actually gave it a grade. So well done. Excellent answers. So our fifth question, we'll start with Mr. Robert. Business development. Supporting business is a priority in TKK. I've witnessed it firsthand. What more can the city do to support our local businesses?
It's a great question. So I think Main Street is a good start. And when that comes online, attracting local businesses and even potentially moving some local businesses, if they want to the new area, would draw in a lot more potential customers and provide a solid tax base for the community. Nobody's seen it yet. We've seen it in drawings and renderings. But I believe that part of my vision is to establish one TKK. There's no peninsula, there's no on peninsula, there's no off peninsula, there's one TKK, and I think this will go a long way to bringing that vision to make it a reality.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Carter.
So recently, the Economic Development Committee had their first Business Connect meeting. And as business owners coming in, just discussing things that are going on in the community, problems, pain points, that kind of stuff. I'd like to see that program actually grow and continue and incorporate other surrounding Fort Mill, Pineville, Charlotte, Rock Hill, bring that over. In regards to economic development, I'd like to focus inside out and focus on our local entrepreneurs and focus on our local business owners that actually have their businesses outside of TGK. One way to do that is to try and incentivize them in order to reduce the business license fee that we have here in the city that Adam referred to earlier. Another way to do that is to try and possibly do a tax deferment or a tax reduction for the first couple of years of business in order for those businesses to get off the ground and get them nice and ramped up and going. We have local entrepreneurs in our community, and they go off and they've set up really awesome things. And a prime example of that is Model A Brewery. That's a whole bunch of business owners that are here. They've done that.
Thank you. Mr. Grayback.
Thank you. Yeah, it kind of goes back to my point about creating a more hospitable environment for businesses, local, big and small. The business license tax, restructuring that. You look around and you see Fort Mill's blowing up. You've got everything from daycares to restaurants going up in Fort Mill, and I just wondered to myself, why are they not coming here? They are in drips and drabs, but I think we can really make it more hospitable. The retail environment is not friendly right now. Over the past 10 years nationwide, I think 140 million square feet of retail has been demolished, and to make way for new stuff. And we still have empty storefronts in TGK and empty lots. So I think it's really important to restructure that business license tax. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kirby.
Well, I've had the privilege of serving TGK, as I mentioned earlier, community relations. We didn't have an economic development committee then, but we did a lot reaching out to businesses that we thought were a good fit for us. We've got a lot to be proud of here. I served 8 years on council, 2 as mayor pro tem. What I'm coming to is it's been nonstop. What can we do to bring more commercial here? We've got to be more business friendly. I don't want to see us giving out tax incentives for people to come, because I think we have more to offer. We have the highest per capita income in a 5-mile radius of anywhere in the state of South Carolina. So I think we need to reach the businesses that we want here and make them understand that we're a diamond in the rough here.
Thank you. And Ms. Miller.
I think incentivizing businesses is something that we truly need to look at so that we can choose the businesses that come here. As a business owner, being committed and being part of the Economic Development Commission for TGK, I'm in conversations with other business owners about why we chose to be here, and sharing the picture of who we are, what TGK stands for, the value that those businesses would have in being part of our city it's really important. It's a whole conversation. We are a top city in South Carolina, and we should have the opportunity to choose the businesses that we want to be here. But we also have to be mindful that all of York County is growing. So having those business license fees and having those incentives is something that, for the right businesses, we may be able to incentivize to come to our city. And also just sharing with them and sharing with our residents the importance of buying and staying local.
Thank you. Question number 6, and we're going to start back with Mr. Carter. As a candidate for TGK Council, what question do you wish I would have asked you, and what is your answer?
So, I want to focus on my campaign. It's building unity in the community, and I wish you would have asked about that. What I mean in regards to building unity in the community, we've annexed a whole bunch of land. Developers have come in and created all these new neighborhoods that are a little bit like outside the peninsula. People that live in those areas don't feel as connected to TGK as some of the residents that live in the peninsula. When you drive down the peninsula, you see the TGK monument sign, and on your right-hand side, you have your digital signage, so you know what's going on, if there's a city council meeting, if there's schools that are going off and doing opportunities at different restaurants or whatnot. But when you go to the newer sections of TKK and you're coming down Dam Road, New Gray Rock Road, Stonecrest, you have no clue that you're actually entering into TKK. When you come down New Gray Rock Road, the only way that you know that you're entering into TKK is when you look at Lake Ridge and it says at like a optometrist office where it's like TKK, it's super small. You need to have a monument sign there and focus on that and include everybody that's here in TKK that we've grown to.
Thank you. And to make sure, and just to ask our audience, please hold your comments so that, I know if I can hear them, the candidates may can. I hate for them to be disturbed. So, Mr. Graybeck, as a candidate for TKK Council, what question do you wish I would have asked you, and what is your answer?
Well, I wish you would have asked me something about Parks and Rec. I love Catawba Park. I think maintaining that investment that we've spent so much money on is really important, and I think we need to make that a priority. But also, just providing more things to do for residents to get together on the weekends. Currently it's kind of separate, alternating weekends where it's Catawba Park on one weekend and Rundy on the other, and I know there's not a lot of back and forth between the communities, and that's okay because it's just maybe more convenient. But I think there's an opportunity to provide maybe a movie night at one place and a concert at the other. Another thing about Parks and Rec, maybe some more pickleball courts. I know they're not cheap, but pickleball and tennis, maybe incorporating that into a mixed-use development, sounds like a good idea to me. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Kirby, what question would you have liked that I would ask?
I thought you might ask me why I would do this. The short answer is that is my passion and love for this city since day one I moved here. I don't think anybody can question how I feel about it and what it's become. Anywhere in the country I go, I'm proud to say, this is where you live, TKK. What does that mean? Beautiful peninsula in Polynesian, and describe it to people, and people say they want to come visit. We have zero here to be ashamed of. I mean, it's really, we've got a lot it's been stated by several people up here tonight. We've got to continue to maintain the growth in the right way so that we can continue a tax base to alleviate having any tax increase. And we're going on our 14th year doing that. So I'm here to tell you that I've got the experience and know how to do that.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, what question would you have liked for me to have asked you?
I would have wanted to tell you what makes TKK so special, and that is the people. It is our quality of life. It is the reason that we all chose to live here. It is the events, the community, and it is the passion that each one of us has for our city. We express it soundly all the time, whether we agree with a policy or we don't agree with a policy, whether we agree with an event or we don't agree with an event. All of us love this city. We're all committed to its future. We are all committed to the passion that we have for raising our families here. My husband and I want our grandchildren to come here. So I would tell you that it is the passion that our residents have, it is our quality of life, is how we see ourselves living here, that all of us are sitting here, and that why everybody that's here is listening to us as well.
Thank you. Mr. Robert, what question would you have had me ask?
Well, I'm not sure if it's a question you're going to ask us later. So, but what I would say is I would have wanted you to ask me about maintaining a small town feel while continuing to grow, because that's the position that we're in. And what I'd say is that our city does a great job of doing that through connections with our first responders and our police, through events and entities like Camp Cadet and Cocoa with a Popo and Fist Bump Fridays and the Polar Plunge and Story Time at the Firehouse. Our children are the future of TKK, and I think it's important to maintain those events. Growing up in a big city, I might have known a few firefighters because I lived 5 houses down the street from one, but I didn't know any police personally, so that's part of what I think makes TKK great.
Thank you. Well, I won't be asking you any more questions because that was the last question, but you guys were so efficient in your answers, and I had us wrapping up at 7:15, so I'm going to call an audible as moderator, and I am going to throw one more in at you. And we'll start with Mr. Grayback because we're going to keep it in the right order. I'm just simply going to give you 1 minute to say anything else that you'd like to say on your candidacy.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah, I really hope that I've been able to articulate, what I stand for here tonight for y'all. I also want to just tell you that I love TK, and I got involved from the minute I came here. We moved into Cameron Creek and immediately got on the HOA, right? Made some changes there to make that community a better place for everyone that lived there. And of course, want to do the same thing here in TK. Served on the Planning Commission, still serving on the Planning Commission, I should say. Trying to do the best I can for the city. I've spent 20 years as an architect, working with all sorts of stakeholders, developers and commercial, not residential. But yeah, assembling teams, having successful projects, and solving problems, and that's what I intend to do for TK. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Kirby.
Repeat the question again.
This question is simple. What else would you like to tell the audience and
That's
folks
not
on your
simple,
candidacy?
Dean. It takes a while.
But you have 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you for the question. I want others to see what I see and what I've enjoyed. I've been known since being here and being involved as a hands-on person, a visionary person, looking outside the box. Several former mayors used to say, "Man, where did you come up with that? You're looking too far ahead." I think I'm the person here tonight that can see 20 years down the road, can plan 20 years down the road, and would like to be a part of that. I know I have the experience. I've got the relationship we need with business, state government, county government, and national government, and I'd like to seek that opportunity.
Thank you. Ms. Miller.
I'm here because TKK matters to me. My family matters, your family matters. All the reasons that we chose to be here matter. I'm standing because the future of TKK is coming, and we need voices that are strong. We need leadership that is strong. We need commitment, and we need to be able to communicate that to the people that live here and that care so much about our city. I love this town. I've raised my family here. I've built my business here. There is nothing that I want more for it than a sustainable, thriving future, and that's why I'm here. It's my purpose to step forward. It's my commitment to you as residents. It's my commitment to myself, to my family, to stand for TKK, to stand for its future. And I hope that November 7th, you guys will go vote.
Thank you. Mr. Robert.
I'd leave everybody with this tonight. You all know that I retired from the Army. You might not know about my particular background in the Army. So I deployed 5 times from 2010 to 2017. And shortly after that, I had my spine fused and medically retired. But I've been a public servant for my entire adult life. And so I'll leave you with a quote from Arthur Ashe, who is actually a veteran as well. "True heroism is remarkably sober. It's very undramatic. It's not the urge to surpass others at whatever cost. It's the urge to serve others at whatever cost." That's how I've led my life so far. That's how I want to continue leading my life, and I want to serve all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll wrap up with Mr. Carter.
So I absolutely love TKK, and being able to tell people that I'm from TKK and have the look where's TKK and tell them exactly where it is, what we have, the community that we have. It's a passion for myself. My wife and I and our family, we have been in our neighborhood for over 17 years, and our neighbors have become friends, and we consider them family. And other people in the community in TDK, we consider family as well. I'm running because I want to help, and I want to serve our community and keep that small town feel and maintain what we have and what we all have come to love.
Thank you. Let's give our candidates a big round of applause. I want to thank you personally, but something a little different that I've never said to a group of candidates. To hear your heart and passion is really inspiring, and I don't think I've ever heard this level of passion and commitment and desire from a group of candidates before. You guys are lucky. To the citizens, this is amazing. I normally have to challenge citizens to show up. Please go vote. That's not the case in TGK. I remember my first candidate forum was 20 years ago, and it was here in TGK, and it was over at the Lakeshore Church. It was before we had the opportunity for thousands to video in. The church was full with standing room only. Then and today, 20 years later, this community is thriving because of you guys, and I applaud you personally. So I'm not going to say remember to vote on Tuesday, November 7th. I know you will. And finally, the York County Regional Chamber wishes to thank the City of TGK for live streaming this event and the help with the audio, and to everyone who had a role in putting this together. Thank you, Mr. Pursley. Have a safe evening.